Greetings, everybody. Okay, I wanted to come at you with a update of my previous video, 666, Knights of Malta, Vatican, or the Knights Rothschild, Knights of Malta, Zionism, and the Vatican connection. With this, that I just totally forgot about, and it just all of a sudden, I was reading Revelation 13 again, and something clicked because I was looking at the Greek term for 666, and there was something that I watched a while back, from a guy by the name of Walid Shubat. Now, before I get into this, I do want to point to you is this whole thing with this Islamic Antichrist. Okay, now, while Walid Shubat is obviously, he claims that he was a terrorist of the PLO organization under Yasser Arafat, and these types of things. However, I do want to state that he is one of those that is strongly promoting and pushing the Islamic Antichrist thing, as in the as in the little horn, as the man of sin. Now, that isn't scripturally accurate, okay, and you can see the reason why in my first video, and with that I did regarding 666. You can go ahead and click on the link up above on the top of the screen. If you haven't watched that, I suggest you do so now before you go in there. It's an hour long, so it's going to take some time to get through. But he is one of those that promotes this whole aspect that Antichrist is going to rise out of Islam and these types of things, where it's the exact opposite, that Islam is basically a controlled tool of the Vatican. But he did bring out something that is interesting. Now, obviously, he does know the Arabic language and these types of things, so I'm going to use this to kind of explain something. Now, again, if you haven't watched my 666 video, watch that first before you watch this one. Okay. So, I'm just going to read a portion of this. It says, on the Zola Levitt program, Walid Shubat, a former PLO terrorist, now Christian evangelist, said that when he saw the Greek symbol that is translated in the Bible as 666, he immediately read it as the Arabic character Bismillah. Some spell Bismillah, which means in the name of Allah, though it looks more like the character for Allah. And there's a 7-minute video you can watch of it. I mean, you can watch it if you want, but again, bear in mind that he's coming from the aspect that even though people of Islam are Antichrist, he's not the Antichrist, okay? And he goes in to explain this. Below left are photos of Greek symbols translated in the Bible as 666. From freejesus.net, the gold symbol bottom and right is Arabic for Allah, when turned and mirrored. And additionally, cross swords are a symbol for Islam. So in 666 we may find symbols for both Islam and Allah. Okay, now again, Islam is Antichrist, but it is not the Antichrist. And the reason why I say that they are Antichrist, but they are not the Antichrist, is because they preach another Jesus. Okay, sure, they, like as it says in Surah 4:157, that they said, as in the Jews, in boast, we killed Christ Jesus, the Son of Mary, the messenger of Allah, but they killed him not, nor crucified him. But so it was made to appear to them, and those who differ therein are full of doubts, with no certain knowledge, but only conjecture, to follow for a surety they killed him not. So they deny the resurrection, they deny the crucifixion, they deny that whole aspect, and that is actually another Jesus that Islam is promoting. So in a sense, they are Antichrist in a sense, but they are not the Antichrist. And obviously, as it says in 2 Corinthians 11:4, this is another Jesus. For if he that cometh preacheth another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or if ye receive another spirit, which ye have not received, or another gospel, which ye have not accepted, you might well bear with him. Okay, and obviously Rome promotes another Jesus. It's not the Jesus of the Bible. Okay, So I do want to point that out too. But Islam is not the little horn, or is not the man of sin that is in reference to in 2 Thessalonians and in Daniel 7. So I wanted to make that clear. Okay, so here, obviously, we have the Revelation 13:18. Here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, which is Rome, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay, now, when you look up this right here, 666, in the Greek, it was always rendered as 666. Now, obviously, the 0 is not a number, so you would those don't count, so that's why you get 666, and which we would say 666. Okay, now I want you to really pay attention to this symbol here. But before we get into this, I just want to show you something. It's the 20. It's a chi z stigma, which is the 22nd, 14th, and an obsolete letter. And that obsolete letter is G4742 as a cross of the Greek alphabet, intermediate between the 5th and 6th, used as numbers denoting respectively 660 and 6, or 666 as a numeral. And obviously we see the connection here, stigma, which means stick, that is prick, a mark incised or punched, for recognition of ownership. That is figuratively a scar of service or mark. Okay, and we know that Islam does penance and these types of things, and so does Catholicism. And so when you look at this aspect of 666, it's also a recognition of ownership. Or it could also be, a recognition of who they are, subservient to. Okay. Now, again, here's the alphabet. There's the X, or the cross. Okay. And I really want you to pay attention to this symbol right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up the symbols here, and let's compare them and see what we come up with. Here is the Greek numerical for 666, and I want you to take a look at this alphabet right here. Okay, now there is some slight difference, but there's a lot of similarities here, and this is what I want to point out. Okay, now if you look at the X here, obviously this is a cross. Now when I pull this image up of the Islamic cross swords, you can see kind of like, the same thing, a cross, an X. And likewise with these other pictures here, you can almost see a resemblance. This basically is the symbol for Allah. You can see it in the Islamic writings, the W looking shape here, Allah, and these types of things, and you can see a very similar lettering here. Okay, and you see the squiggly, except right there it's on top instead of the bottom. So I'm not saying that this is for sure, but I'm just saying that the base of this is very, very similar to what we find in the Greek wording for 666. Okay, hence Allah and Islam, the cross swords, as you see here, could also be a 666 type numbering. So in a sense, Islam and Allah could possibly mean 666. I am not saying for sure, but what I am saying is when you look at the Greek symbol here and you compare it with the Arabic writing that you see before you, you can really see a resemblance. Okay, and I'll go ahead and post the link to the article I just read, and you can watch the the videos and stuff like that. But again, I need to forewarn you that Walid Shoebat, though he may be sincere, is promoting a Islamic Antichrist, which in itself is what the Vatican wants, because they do not want, and that was the whole reason behind the Counter-Reformation with the Council of Trent and the creation of the Jesuits, was to do everything they can to keep the idea of the papacy as being the Antichrist away from the masses. And they have done a spectacular job with all of these theories that are out now and everything. But we have to go back and we have to realize that it is the papacy, it is Rome that is, part of the mixture of iron and clay. And so it is the papal system that is the Antichrist. And again, the reason why I bring this up, and if this does have a numerical value of 666 according to the Greek, then what does this mean? Well, it actually is another confirmation that Islam is another tool or another military arm, an open military arm for the Vatican. And before I close this video, I do want to point you to some other articles of interest that you might want to check into, which is highly documented and highly sourced information. Okay, first is the page I showed you before, which is Islamic Antichrist, and again, the links will be provided and these types of things. And also you have this one, which is a truth provided newsletter from the site remnantofgod.org, which is from October 2003. Got a lot of information on here. Like, for example, the Pope's stances are appreciated in the Arab states. And folks, don't think that these things have changed. They haven't. And this is from Regional Vatican Politics, July 15th, 2003. The Vatican announced yesterday that the denouncement pronounced by Pope John Paul II of the American military interference in Iraq and his call for a just and comprehensive peace in the Middle East were appreciated in the Arab states. The statement explained that the participants expressed their appreciation for the Pope's position and the Catholic officials on the Middle East, especially their condemnation of the war against Iraq and their demand of a just and comprehensive peace in the Middle East. So they're working both sides here. And then Archbishop says, uncompromising Pope saved Muslim-Christian relations. I mean, there's a wealth of information here. New York Catholics, Muslims pledge cooperation. I mean, documents over and over again. Here you see the Pope kissing the Quran. And these types of things. Here is some verses from the Quran that this letter provides. And basically what the Jesuits did in the time of the Reformation is what Islam is doing today in the open persecution of unbelievers of their respective religions, be it Islam or Catholicism and these types of things. They're basically doing the open, the open military onslaught, whereas the Jesuits have basically moved into a secret type aspect, and the aspect of what's the word I'm looking for? Infiltration and these types of things. Here's another one you can go and check out. The Pope and Islam. A lot of information here. And everything here, you click here for article updates. It was recently updated on the 20th of 14. And everything that's highlighted in blue is hyperlinked. So you can go and click on these. Okay? I mean, there's so much similarities, it's not even funny. Roman Catholic popes teach Mary worship. The Muslim Quran has Mary mentioned 34 times. Roman Catholics pray to Mary. Muslims pray to Mary. The Vatican admitted on March 12, 2000 that the Roman Catholic Church killed Christians and Jews for 1,260 years. And these types of things. I mean, it goes on and on and on. A wealth of information that you can get to basically pretty much prove without a shadow of a doubt that this is the case. Okay. Vatican supports call to teach Islam. Future holds lasting alliance with Islam. And all of this the Vatican is promoting. And here's another interesting read that you might want to check into, by Alberto Rivera, how the Vatican created Islam. Okay, all of this can be sourced from all of these links that is provided. I mean, unprecedented amount of evidence. I mean, it will probably take you a while to get through. To basically prove that, again, Islam is nothing more than a military tool in the aspect of the whole Hegelian principle of thesis and antithesis. Everything is basically all in order to basically restore the temporal power to the papacy and these types of things. Okay, so you have to bear that in mind when you're looking at the aspect of Islam. You know, I mean, obviously they are so open in what they do, that it's almost too convincing. Okay, but at the same time, we have to look at everything from a scriptural standpoint, and we have to remember that Islam didn't even come to power till 600 AD, roughly around the 600 AD period. All right, and that's one thing we have to consider. And then also the lettering, and comparing the Arab lettering for Allah and Islam, how it has a very, very close correlation to the Greek version of 666. And again, if you haven't seen the video that I posted about 666, Rothschild, Zionism, Knights of Malta, Vatican connection, to see who is at the helm of everything, you need to watch that, because if this is true, and if the Arabic lettering matches the Greek, and it means 666, then again, all of this stuff here that I just showed you, everything here is just more confirmation that, the Vatican is in full control of the religion of Islam, and they are actually working together, instead of what you may seem to be seen on the media as being polar opposites, but they are not. Okay, so again, I hope this has been insightful and helpful to you. So until next time, truth be told, truth be known, stay safe, God bless, and thank you for watching. Greetings, everybody. Okay, I wanted to come at you with an update of my previous video, 666, Knights of Malta, Vatican, or the Knights Rothschild, Knights of Malta, Zionism, and the Vatican connection. With this that I just totally forgot about, and it just all of a sudden, I was reading Revelation 13 again, and something clicked because I was looking at the Greek, my first video, and with that I did regarding 666. You can go ahead and click on the link up above on the top of the screen. If you haven't watched that, I suggest you do so now before you go in there. It's an hour long, so it's going to take some time to get through. But he is one of those that promotes this whole aspect that Antichrist is going to rise out of Islam and these types of things, where it's the exact opposite, that Islam is basically a controlled tool of the Vatican. But he did bring out something that is interesting. Now, obviously, he does know the Arabic language and these types of things, so I'm going to use this to kind of explain something. Now, again, if you haven't watched my 666 video, watch that first before you watch this one. Okay. So, I'm just going to read a portion of these types of things. However, I do want to state that he is one of those that is strongly promoting and pushing the Islamic Antichrist thing, as in the as in the little horn, as the man of sin. Now, that isn't scripturally accurate, okay? And and you can see the reason why term for 666. And there was something that I watched a while back, by from a guy by the name of Walid Shubat. Now, before I get into this, I do want to point to you is this whole thing with this Islamic Antichrist. Okay, now while Walid Shubat is obviously, he claims that he was a terrorist of the PLO organization under Yasser Arafat, and it needs